Mark Rogers TV here, wishing you a happy Thanksgiving. We're so thankful to God for so many blessings in our life. We hope that you are as well. Before we dive into the food and the NFL football, let's dive into Week 13 of college football predictions. This our favorite week with all the traditional rivalries. Keep in mind that our confidence picks are 23-10. 23-10 against the spread. This season, 44-19 in two seasons, including 3 for 3 last week with Ohio State +2 against Wisconsin. We took Rutgers +6.5 against Cincinnati, and Washington laying the 20.5 against Colorado. One game in college football on Friday. It's Texas-TCU as the Big 12 hopes to replace Texas A&M, with TCU in this statement rivalry marquee game to close out the Big 12 season in Texas. Texas is 7.5-point favorite, looking to finish strong at 9-2. TCU not the top 10 to 15 team that they've been the past couple years. We like Texas to win it outright and lay the 7.5 against TCU. On Friday, a number of games including LSU and Arkansas. This is a great matchup in the SEC in the last 5 or 6 years, but not so this year. Arkansas down at 4-7. All sorts of problems surrounding that program. LSU capable 8-2 right now. LSU is a 12.5-point favorite, and the Tigers get it done and lay the 12.5 against the Hogs. Nebraska and Iowa, huge game for the Huskers as they look to go to the Big Ten championship game with a win. They go to Iowa and win it to go on to Indianapolis against Wisconsin. We like Nebraska to win the game, but Iowa keeps it close. Take the Hawkeyes plus the 15 in that one. Arizona State, toss-up, complete toss-up. Wildcats at home, 24th ranked, but Arizona State just as good. They're getting 3, so take the 3, but take Arizona to win the game. The Apple Cup rivalry with Washington State for a second straight week. We like the Huskies and a confidence pick. Yeah, confidently taking the Huskies, who have moved into the top 25 in recent weeks and look to close out at 8-4. Washington laying 12.5 in a confidence play against woeful Washington State and Mike Leach. All right, finally, Kent State already going to the MAC championship game for the first time in school history, taking on the Bobcats of Ohio University at 8-3, and of course they had that big win to get them going in the kickoff game against Penn State. We like Ohio U to keep it close. They're getting 10 points here, but Kent State wraps up the regular season with a win to go to 11-1. But this could be a possible upset, no doubt here, as Ohio U is definitely capable. Both teams rush the football very well, but take Kent State to win the game, OU plus the 10. Let's move on to Saturday, and wow, we've got some great games. Let's start with the lesser games, with Louisville looking to move into a showdown game with Rutgers in the last regular season game. First, they've got to take care of Connecticut. Louisville does win at home, but take the Huskies to keep it close, plus the 12.5 points. Rutgers and Pitt, and despite the records, 9-1 for Rutgers and 4-6 for Pitt. These two teams are just about even, according to the odds makers. Take Rutgers to win the game and lay the 1.5 points, but we'd not be surprised if Pitt does a Virginia Tech what they did earlier to the Hokies and defeat Rutgers in this game. Oklahoma State, we like the Sooners, but the Sooners, not a great football team, gave up 49 to West Virginia last week. They win, but Oklahoma State covers 7.5. Texas A&M and Mizzou, the two newcomers to the SEC, had two very different fates this season, with A&M playing very well in conference play, while Mizzou barely got anything done. Missouri getting 22 points, and we like the Tigers to keep it somewhat close. Not really, but within 22. Texas A&M wins outright. All right, South Carolina-Clemson. Yeah, Clemson's got the fancy numbers, the fancy players. They've got the offense all over the place. Jadeveon Clowney banged up, as well as Connor Shaw. But South Carolina wins this game over Clemson. Look at what happened last season. Carolina's just a tougher football team. Clemson still has issues on defense, issues tackling and blocking, doing the basics. Take South Carolina plus the 4 points against Clemson, and South Carolina wins it straight up. Stanford UCLA, what's interesting here, of course, with the Cardinal coming off the upset of Oregon, they can march on to the championship game in the Pac-12 with a win over UCLA, and then they will rematch UCLA in the Pac-12 championship game. Both teams are red hot, coming off huge wins. Is there a letdown here? We hope not. We think not. We think it's going to be a great game. Take Stanford -1.5 at the Rose Bowl against UCLA. Oregon State. We like the Beavers to keep it close, but the Ducks, can they really lose 2 consecutive weeks? Take Oregon to win. They're a 10-point favorite, though, and we like the Beavers here to keep it close, plus the 10 points. Georgia Tech. Georgia's incentive, despite already wrapping up the Eastern Division in the SEC, is that the Bulldogs need a win to possibly and most likely play for the national championship in Miami. So we like Georgia to win, but the Yellow Jackets keep it close, plus the 14 points in a rivalry game. Florida State, we cut a video on this one, posted it a few days ago, so if you like more in-depth analysis on Florida State, check that one out. The Florida State offense says that's the decided advantage in this game because we've got 2 great special teams, 2 great top 5 defenses, and the Florida State offense is prolific at 44 points per game. The Gators have struggled moving the football, but somehow, some way, they get it done in Tallahassee. Take Florida plus the 7 points against Florida State in a confidence pick. Florida plus 7. All right, we've got Alabama-Auburn, of course, one of the great rivalries in college football, many times voted as one of the 2 or 3 best along with Army-Navy and Ohio State-Michigan, but this year, this game is going to get ugly in a hurry. Alabama's not going to let down. They're going to hit the throttle and never stop. Alabama wins. They cover 32 against a messed up Auburn team right now under Gene Chizik. Ohio State and Michigan, the game in Columbus, the first edition of Brady Hoke versus Urban Meyer. Hoke won it last year against Luke Fickell as the Wolverines finally beat the Buckeyes for the first time since 2003. Ohio State playing much better on defense with all sorts of playmakers and Jonathan Hankins, John Simon and the like. Ryan Shazier had a huge game against Wisconsin. We like the Buckeyes at home. It's going to be a good game, a close game, but Ohio State does cover the 3.5 points. We shot a video and posted it a few days ago, Ohio State, Michigan, so check that one out. And finally, the game that could move Notre Dame onto the national championship game. It's preseason number 1 USC against current number 1 Notre Dame at the Coliseum. Of course, no Matt Barkley for USC. They pin their hopes on Max Wittek. Max Wittek is a freshman. A lot of people are talking about a Notre Dame route, that there's no way that they can lose this game. With the athletes that USC has, they've got athletes and speed all over the place. They're at home. Max Wittek is a 3rd-ranked quarterback coming out of high school, so he's highly touted. This guy's got talent. They're not throwing a bum on the field. This is USC. Think about like 10 years ago, this could have been Matt Castle as a backup coming onto the field for USC. So USC's going to show up for this game. They're going to want to prove something. That said, the Notre Dame defense front 7 is just way too tough for USC, and the Trojans leaky on defense, so Notre Dame squeezes out a win. So take SC plus the 6.5, take the Irish to win, complete an undefeated 12-0 season, and march on to the national championship game at number 1. Those are our picks. We can't wait to dive into the football after the food, and week 13, it should be a great one. Would love to hear your picks and what you have to say about all the great rivalry games here on Mark Rogers TV.